guys, and welcome to Cooking with Fat Julie, where I share tips and tricks in the kitchen, as well as quick and easy recipes. Today I'm going to show you how to make pancakes, which of course everybody loves. But keep your eyes open for next week's episode, where I show you how to turn those pancakes into a really delicious dinner meal. I've already added my flour, baking powder, salt, and sugar to the bowl, and I'm just going to mix it up a bit now, so that it's stirred in evenly. So far I have used 1.5 cups of flour, 3.5 tablespoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. Most recipes say that you need to sift flour, and while that used to be really necessary when we had to sift out the bugs and the husks, flour is processed a lot better now, so we don't need to worry about that stuff. In some recipes, especially really light cakes, it is a good idea to do it, just to make sure that you've measured properly and all of your ingredients have been sifted and mixed through thoroughly. But for pancakes, it's not a big deal because the lumps inside them are going to be fine. They're going to cook out. It's normal because you don't over stir pancakes, otherwise they're going to get tough and have a lot of bubbles inside. So I'm going to make a well out of my dry ingredients, which basically means I'm putting a hole in the center of the dry ingredients, or making the dry ingredients form a ring around my bowl. Once that's done, I'm going to add 1.25 cups of milk into my well. Three tablespoons of already melted butter. And 1 egg. Then I'm going to stir up my ingredients until it's all mixed together evenly. But like I said, you're still going to have some lumps and the bumps in the middle, and that's absolutely normal and okay with pancakes. When you're adding the ingredients, if you want to add some extra things like vanilla and cinnamon, maybe some fruit, blueberries, strawberries, or even chocolate chips, feel free to do that. I usually do add a little bit of vanilla and cinnamon, but I'm not going to do that today because I'm not making breakfast pancakes. Once that's all stirred up evenly, you're going to take it over to the stove and get ready to cook it. I've thrown a little bit of butter in my pan, and I've wet my fingers, and I'm going to throw some water on, like that. That sizzle and jumping water tells me that my pan is hot enough to start. If my pan is not hot enough to start, my first few pancakes aren't really going to turn out. I like to use a measuring cup as a scooper, but you can use whatever you want. I just find it makes less of a mess. I'm going to pour that in there in the size of pancakes that I want and let that cook. Depending on your stove, you're going to want to turn your heat somewhere between medium and medium-high. And you're going to want to keep some milk handy in case your pancake mix is too thick. You can just thin it out with some milk. The thickness can be affected by things like moisture and humidity. So just keep an eye on that. Sometimes you might not know until you've tried to make a couple of pancakes. Now if you look at the pancakes, they're starting to bubble all around. And once they're kind of uniformly bubbled all the way through, then I know that my pancakes are ready to be flipped. Now sometimes it's going to take a few tries to find out what the ideal temperature is on your stove and how long it's going to take to cook. But after making a few, you'll get the hang of it. They should take a little bit less time to cook on the flip side than they did the first time around. but you can always lift it a little bit to check. Once your pancakes are done, just throw them on a plate and keep going. If you're making a really large batch of pancakes, you can put them in the oven on a very low temperature to stay warm until they're all finished, and that way you can serve your meal all at once. So now that I have enough pancakes for the meal that I'm making, I'm just going to show you a little trick that I used to do all the time with my kids when they were little. I used to make a pancake with a letter on it, but you have to make sure that your letter, if it's not something uniform like an M, is backwards. So I'm going to make a J. So I drew a J, and then I'm going to pour pancake batter on top of it, and I'll show you how that turns out. Now this is a really big pancake. It's something that would be good for breakfast or dessert. It's not what I needed for my recipe, but I'll just show you how I make a letter. Now of course you can use a piper or a Ziploc bag with a hole in it, or even a ketchup bottle to draw intricate things or do really nice letters, but it's pancakes and kids don't care if it's the perfect J or an imperfect J. They're just super happy and surprised that you managed to make a pancake with the first letter of their name on it. So you don't have to go all out and draw a Care Bear. A little letter every now and then really does the trick. So my pancake has almost started to bubble through in the middle, and once that's totally bubbled through, I'm going to flip that over and show you what that looks like. Just remind you once again, if you have a letter like the one of my first name, which is a J, make sure you draw it on backwards, because otherwise when you flip it over, it's not going to look right. So let's flip this guy. Looks like I might have cooked it a little bit too much. Let me just move the camera, and now you can see the J on it. And these are the pancakes that I was making for my meal tonight. Thanks for watching my show about making pancakes. If you've got a recipe that you'd like to share or that you'd like me to try, please let me know in the comments below. Bon appétit!